I teach high school English and whew, the white supremacy runs deep. What do I mean by that? Well, let's look at how we write essays. Start with an introduction that includes a thesis. Always cite your sources. Use transition words like however and therefore. These are all made up rules. They're arbitrary. They were created by Westerners in power. In linguistic justice, April Baker Bell calls this the language of respectability or the language of power.
There is nothing more 2022 to me than a high school English and literature teacher saying that using a thesis and words like however and therefore are white supremacist when she is in fact white. College professors have said 2 + 2 = 4 is racist also, so I guess everything is just racist. Breathing is now racist, so.
It really terrifies me that the educators that are bringing up the next generation think that things like citing your sources is white supremacy.
Though it may not look like it, I don't really like being disrespectful to people. And I will try not to be here, but best believe me, if that's how you take it, that's how you take it. Now, those videos came from a little over a year ago, but when I saw them, I knew I wanted to say something about them. I immediately noticed some red flags. Firstly, that you got this video from libs of TikTok. But secondly, and more importantly, I wanted to know why you paused the video right there. It seemed like she wasn't done talking. I then tried to zoom in so I could see the original creator's username, but I couldn't really make it out, so I decided to type in the first few sentences from the video into the search bar. That's when I found your video, but then I also noticed that you seem to pause it in a weird place. Thankfully, I could clearly see a username, so I went to her page. Come here, let's all take a look at what was conveniently left out of this video.
In linguistic justice, April Baker Bell calls this the language of respectability or the language of power. Which got me thinking, what if I started my school year with a unit honoring how we talk rather than teaching students how to write properly?
Now stick with me. What if her video happened to be about language and how we view people who speak different dialects, and less about citing sources or saying a word being white supremacy? AKA, what if the meaning of the video is different than what these people seem to lead on? Foreshadow, verb, be a warning or indication of a future event. Right before you cut your video, and right after you cut your video, this teacher cites this source right here. Do you think the truth seeker bothered to seek out this resource? Anyway, moving swiftly along because there is a such thing as dumb questions, I ended up finding this book review for it. But that wasn't good enough, so I ended up finding the entire 149-page book. Oh my fucking god, cited sources. By linking the racial classifications black and white to language, I am challenging you, the reader, to see how linguistic hierarchies and racial hierarchies are interconnected, and we'll get back to that throughout this video. I was in the process of reading through chapter 1 when I realized that this book is based off of a study conducted by the same author, so I figured I'd just go find the study. Let me summarize for you what this study is about. We are all taught growing up in the United States correct American grammar or English, and people who deviate from speaking this way are often viewed negatively with different types of stereotypes. In the 70s, right after the Civil Rights Movement, the term academic language began being used and being applied to the default way in which white Americans spoke English. Even if you're skeptical and you don't want to go over historical literature, this makes sense intuitively. Black people were barred from higher education, so when they came up with the language that is deemed academically acceptable, they were not thinking of black people. And at no point in history have white and black people in the United States had the exact same dialect. There's obviously a dialectical difference. This means that when white people begin school, they're often viewed as being more prepared because their speak is more academic already, as opposed to black students who are viewed as having a disadvantage. All of this has led to even black students viewing the way that they speak as less intelligent than their peers and less worthy of value. This study tests that theory and also provides a lesson plan to help combat some of the deeply held beliefs that many students, even black students, have about the way black people talk. This isn't just some shit that was made up. There was a federal court case about this in the 70s, where Judge Charles W. Joyner issued a decision that said that the school district must develop a program to assist students who spoke black English, due to many things including students incorrectly being labeled handicapped. And while there was no evidence of intentional discrimination, the lack of the teacher's effort to account for the fact that not everyone speaks English in the same way affected the children's self-confidence and ability to learn. So the author conducts a study where the students, all black girls by the way, are to read 2 sentences and then draw a picture of who they think said it in which way, and then give their thoughts about the speakers of those sentences. For example, something like people be thinking teenagers don't know nothing, as opposed to teenagers know more than people think they do. Now, despite the fact that you could understand what the fuck I just said either way, the students put language B, the second one, as being smart and good, while language A was ghetto, thug, disrespectful, they skip school. Mind you, nothing about the way that you say a sentence determines whether or not you're going to be a thug or skip school. And the failure to ensure that black students understand that just because they say something differently does not mean that they're bad or that they're incorrect in saying it is exactly what this entire study and book that neither of you bothered to fucking look up is about. As a proposed solution, the author does a lesson plan where they have students watch The Hate U Give and then ask and respond to these questions. You can read them if you want. This is not indoctrination or woke left. I literally watched watch The Hate U Give my freshman year of high school. So no, citing your sources or saying however is not white supremacy. The fact that you can have two equally valid ways of saying something to somebody and conveying that information, but one can be viewed as academic and correct and the other one wrong, stupid, or unintelligent, is the white supremacy part, because those distinctions were drawn along racial lines. This is why Yuval's content on this topic is so fucking profound, because he's been telling y'all, when y'all say it's not library, it's library, go back to the library and learn how to pronounce it, you are associating something that majority black people say with unintelligence, even though you fucking understood what they meant when they said library. But y'all won't keep that same energy when a British person says aluminium instead of aluminum, or when you say comfortable instead of comfortable, and he challenges your assumptions about the way that you say everyday things that you don't even catch that you're saying wrong, but you have all this smoke when it comes to things that black people say. But you heard a teacher try to give an example by bringing up however or citing sources, and you just assumed that the woke left is telling you that saying however or citing sources is racist, without challenging your assumptions, which is the whole purpose of everything that was here. You guys heard something and then turned your brain off and made a reaction to it. She provided you the source, and you didn't even go seek it out, because fundamentally you're both reactionaries. You're not going to argue with the literature and be like, no, actually this language dialectical problem comes about because biologically they just aren't qualified to be considered a proper language. You only exist to say, look at that thing that they're saying, it's dumb and it doesn't make sense. Because think about it, really saying this is racist? It's like conversating with children. In conclusion, if you take nothing away from this video, she looks this incredulous because someone dare asked her to think. Good day.